Hi and a very warm welcome. My name's Ian Mack. In this session of opera stories, we're going to consider the opera The Wreckers. Now, the clue is in the name, The Wreckers. It's about people who wreck ships and set actually in England. But what's the actual story? Well, let's find out. The Wreckers is a three-act opera by Ethel Smith. That's Smith with a Y. She was the composer, the writer, and a suffragette, and this is often viewed as her greatest work. Initially, it premiered in 1906 in Leipzig in German, and then later in London in English. It's a tale of love, betrayal, fanaticism, and the courage to stand against injustice. Set on the wild coast of Cornwall in England, it explores morality, faith, and the rebellion within an isolated community. So what's the general story of The Wreckers? Well, it's set in 18th century Cornwall, and the opera follows a tight-knit coastal village whose inhabitants deliberately lure ships onto the rocks to plunder their cargo. The village pastor, Pasco, justifies the wrecking as divine will, while secretly condemning dissent amongst the villagers. His wife, Thurza, has grown disillusioned and secretly loves the idealistic outsider, Mark, who wants to end the killings. And by killings, we mean the drownings of the sailors. Together they warn of an incoming ship, but the villagers discover their betrayal, and in a frenzy the mob drags them before Pasco, who denounces them to protect his authority. Refusing to recant their actions, Thurza and Mark are condemned and left to die in a flooded cave as the villagers return to their brutal way of life. Key characters in the opera, well, Thurza, the wife of the village pastor. She's disillusioned with the villagers' cruelty and secretly in love with Mark. She's courageous, she's compassionate, and willing to defy her community to save innocent lives. Then Mark, an idealistic outsider, horrified by the villagers' tradition of murderous wrecking. In love with Thurza and determined to end the killings, brave and self-sacrificing, and ultimately choosing love and morality over survival. We encounter Pasco, the village pastor and Thurza's husband, outwardly pious but secretly condones wrecking as God's will to maintain control over the villagers. Fanatical, authoritarian, he condemns Thurza and Mark to protect his power. And finally, the villagers, an ensemble of fearful, superstitious people, a community living in poverty, dependent on wrecking for survival. They follow Pasco's harsh moral code, quick to turn into a mob when their way of life is threatened. Act 1, The Secret and the Outsider. Well, on a wild coast in Cornwall, England, villagers gather in a chapel, singing hymns while secretly plotting to lure ships onto the rocks to loot their cargo. Their pastor, Pasco, preaches righteousness, yet condones the wrecking as God's will. His disillusioned wife, Thurza, secretly loves the outsider, Mark, who is horrified by the murders and vows to stop them. They plan to warn the next ship using a beacon, risking their lives to end the killings. In Act 2 of the opera, we witness betrayal and uprising. A storm approaches and a ship is sighted. Mark secretly lights the beacon to warn it, saving the ship from being wrecked. The villagers find out someone betrayed them and are furious. Suspicion spreads and Thurza boldly admits she helped save the ship. The mob becomes violent and Pasco condemns her as a traitor to protect his own authority. Thurza and Mark are seized and locked in a sea cave to await judgment. Act 3, Judgment and Doom. The villagers gather for a grim trial, whipped into a frenzy by Pasco's fiery preaching. Thurza and Mark are accused of defying God and betraying their community. They refuse to repent, declaring the wrecking is murder and must end. The villagers vote for death. As the tide rises, Thurza and Mark are left chained together in the cave, defiant and unbroken, whilst the villagers return to their lives as if nothing had ever changed. Some useful and interesting footnotes to this opera. Well, Ethel Smith, she was one of the first British women to gain international recognition as a composer. Passionate and outspoken, she often challenged the male-dominated musical world. Rich, dramatic, late romantic orchestration in this opera with powerful choruses and rugged, sea-inspired motifs. Influences from Richard Wagner and Giuseppe Verdi, but with Smith's own intense, elemental voice. Well, the reception's interesting. It had a mixed initial reviews, but it was admired for its boldness and its originality. It's seen a growing revival in recent times, and particularly in the 21st century, as a pioneering feminist work. I find the Wreckers very interesting as an opera, partly because of the notes that I've just recanted. Cornwall, tragedy, love, strange community, passion, the sea, the motifs, the melodies. It's a beautiful work. If you do get the chance to see it, please do. As another opera story, my name's Ian Mack, and until the next opera story, remember to like and subscribe, and as always, time is knowledge.